Hi guys, welcome to this third and final video in our gloss tutorial series. Now, this is not going to be a particularly long video, but it's going to be an important video because it's going to take a lot of the stuff that we've learned and kind of take it back to other properties that as we affect gloss, what is the rule of thumb? Typically, what can you expect? I'm not going to say that 100% every time this is the way it's going to be, but more often than not, we're going to get these results. Okay, so we're going to just kind of talk through unit operations in a paper mill, and then we'll say, okay, if this is happening, if I'm increasing my gloss, then what's happening to these other properties that are important in the process? So when we think about increasing the gloss, there are basically two operations that we do. We do calendaring and we do coatings. Okay, so those two things, whether done on machine or off machine, those are the two things that we do that typically will increase, and we're talking in this video about things that we'll do to increase the gloss. Okay, so we're either calendaring or coating with that. All right, so we're just going to take those two topics and we're going to kind of run down a list of other properties to say, okay, if I'm increasing gloss and I do it via calendaring, what happens? Okay, so first one, let's look at smoothness. Okay, so smoothness is again somewhat of a surface characteristic. So how smooth is a paper, and that's really important in not only just the tactile point of view from an end user, but from a printing application. Okay, how good is that font, or how good is that image going to form on that surface because of its surface characteristics of smoothness? Okay, so if I'm calendaring, I'm going to see my smoothness increase with that. Again, gloss is increasing, okay? So gloss increases across the board in this conversation. So as I calendar, my smoothness will go up as well. If I'm applying a coating, my smoothness typically will go up along with that. The density of my sheet. Now when I calendar, what am I doing? I'm squeezing that sheet, right? I'm squeezing. It's much like an iron when I'm pressing my shirt or something like that. I'm compacting it to some extent. So the density of that is going to go up. So as I calendar, my gloss is going up, but my density of that sheet goes up as well. On a coating, typically, we'll see that density go up in the same way. So my gloss is going up, my smoothness is going up, my density is going up with that. Okay, so those are all positive improvements with that. But now let's look at the opposite side of that coin. An important property that we all measure is brightness. Okay, so if I'm now calendaring, let's stick with calendaring right now. If I'm calendaring, okay, and I am increasing the gloss of that sheet, okay, brightness is measuring at, say, 45 degrees, all right? And now if I do something to change the glossiness of that sheet, that's going to send more light off of the opposite 45 degrees. That means less light that can get back to the photocell. So my brightness is going to go down. So if I do things that make my sheet glossier by calendaring, I'm going to see my brightness go down. Now alternatively, when I'm coating, it can be one or the other depending upon the brightness of the coating. If it's less than the sheet, the brightness is going to go down with that. If it's higher than the sheet, the brightness actually may go up a little bit. Again, it all depends upon how much more gloss I'm getting with that. So you can see it go either way with that. The compressibility of the sheet, we kind of talked about that when we talked about density. When I'm calendaring, I'm taking a little bit of that compressibility out because I'm flattening it all together at that point. So typically my compressibility will go down. When it comes to a coating, that's another, I'm not sure. Again, it depends a little few things that we are not defining within the scope of this conversation. What happens to my opacity? Okay, so now I'm taking that sheet, my gloss is going up, but I'm compacting that sheet. Now when we talked about opacity, we talked a lot about scatter. Okay, so with that, now I'm compressing that, so I'm losing some of those air to fiber interfaces, so to some extent that light actually might travel through that paper a little bit, so I may see a small decrease in opacity. It won't be significant, but I may see a small decrease in opacity. Now, on the other side, if I'm applying a coating, I'm going to see my opacity go up to some extent because now that coating is acting, giving me more hiding power to my sheet. So I'll see some good things with that. Now, another really important property is porosity. okay, what's going to happen to my porosity as I'm calendaring this sheet to make it glossier? Again, I'm compressing that, so I'm losing some of that ability for air to flow through that because I'm filling in a lot of those voids in there. So now that sheet becomes tighter, if you will, and so the opacity is going to go, the porosity is going to go down with that. All right, with coating, kind of the same scenario happening with that. Now, I've got less ability for air to push through that because of the coating presence there. So I see my porosity change with that. Now, thickness, that's obviously a very important, especially commercial property, when you're selling your product. So thickness, if I am calendaring my sheet to make my gloss higher, calendaring by nature squeezes it together so it makes it a thinner sheet. So its thickness decreases with that. Just the opposite with a coating, though. When I put a coating on there, I'm making that sheet a little bit thicker. It's like putting frosting on a cake, if you will. So I'm making that a thicker sheet, so my thickness goes up with that. Those are some just real quick things that you can be thinking about when it comes to gloss, because on the surface you might think, wow, gloss is not that significant of an issue, but really think about the things in the paper making process that we do to improve the glossiness of the sheet. And all of a sudden we start thinking, when we do that, here are the trickle-down effects. Here are the things that go on because I'm doing this to increase the gloss. Therefore, these things have a high probability of occurring in my process. All right, so we've covered a lot in these 3 videos. We've covered basic concepts of light interaction with the surface characteristics of our products, because that's really what we're talking about with gloss, is the ability for light to come in at one angle and go out at the opposite angle. And again, we make products that push this way or push this way depending upon the in-use application, and we set instruments up to really look at this little blip that comes out here, because again, the higher that specular component is, the higher that gloss component is, the more energy coming out that way. And we don't want to detect the wrong amount with that. And still today, we have the 2 methods. We have the 75 degree and the 20 degree. And the 20 degree, goodness, probably today, maybe 10% of our customers will order the 20 degree to supplement the 75 degree. So it's not the large portion of the market. It is actually the smallest portion of the market on that. But still, if you find that your visual assessments don't agree with the instrument on those upper ranges, it may be because you need to move to the 20 degree. All right, guys, if you have any questions or you want to learn more information about gloss, please feel free to contact us. We love working with our customers, trying to help them solve their issues, and ultimately, at the end of the day,